I'm Marna, and this is the Twin Flame Detox. In this video, we're going to talk about recognizing and healing core wounds. And instead of talking about this in the abstract, we're going to go through an exercise of helping someone heal a core wound. So please bear with me. I am not the artist in my family. That would be my daughter. But this is Bob. Hi, Bob. Bob has an issue. Bob's issue is that he is a people pleaser. Now, I don't know how many of you identify as being a people pleaser too. I know I do. People pleasers are people who, for whatever reason, feel that it is their responsibility to make sure that everyone around them stays happy, or at least satisfied with what's going on. Now, in Bob's case, being a people pleaser means that Bob is frequently overwhelmed. There are those who take advantage of him. He is underappreciated, and he is frequently feeling burned out by all that's going on and all the demands that are being made on him that he never says no to. Because Bob is a people pleaser, and this is part of his identity. And poor Bob needs to change this. If he doesn't, he is only going to become more and more miserable. Now, the question Bob has for me, though, how do I even start changing being a people pleaser? What do I do? What causes this? How do I recognize it, and how do I change it? Those are very good questions, Bob. So the first thing we're going to have Bob do is sit down and answer some questions for himself in his journal. Now, those questions are going to start off as fairly innocuous, and then they're going to become more and more pointed. Now then, if you're doing this exercise along with Bob and you would like some help on identifying your own questions to ask, my contact information is in the box. I will be more than happy to help you with that. But for Bob, our friendly little people pleaser who wants to change, the first question Bob is going to ask himself is, what happens if I don't follow through on helping 27 different people with their projects? What happens if I say no? Again, that's a very good question, Bob. And writing the answer out in his journal is going to lead to more of those good questions. What does happen if you say, no, I can't? What comes after that? Now, Bob's fear is that if he starts saying, no, I can't help you, then people are going to think he doesn't have any value in their lives. Bob is afraid that the only worth he has at work and in his personal life is what he can do for other people. Now, that's not a healthy way to live, is it? But that does introduce us to Bob's shadow self. And again, I'm not a good drawer. I don't pretend to be. Bob's shadow self is the belief that Bob has that he is not worthy of love. Bob believes that he does not deserve to be valued, that he does not deserve to be a valued member of his society, his community, his family, or his workplace. Bob believes his only value is in what he does for other people, not in himself as a whole and complete person. That's Bob's shadow. But the sad thing is, inside of Bob's shadow, hidden away behind all of that belief in one's unworthiness, is a very hurt child. You see, when our shadow self is created, it comes from a moment in our childhood when we received what is known as a core wound. Bob's core wound came when he brought home bad grades. And he was told he did not get a fancy dinner for bad grades. He did not get to have dessert because of bad grades. He was not good enough because of his bad grades. This was a denial of love on the part of his parents. Now, they did not mean to do damage to Bob this way. They thought they were instilling in Bob a sense of responsibility, a sense of the importance of doing well in school. But in the process, they ripped that poor little boy's heart out and told him he did not deserve to be loved unless he measured up to their standards. That created in Bob a very deep-seated need to please his parents. Because if he was not worthy of being loved on his own, what would happen if he didn't please them? Would they toss him out? Would they abandon him? Remember, children are very egocentric little creatures. They do not understand that the world really doesn't revolve around them. And Bob believed that everything that went wrong in his family from that point on happened because of something he did, because he was not good enough. And that belief grew into Bob's shadow self. So now we've identified why Bob is a people pleaser. We have identified what keeps Bob trapped in the need to take care of everyone around him. We've identified Bob's fear, his fear of loss. We've identified where that fear came from. Now, getting to this stage with Bob did take some time. He did a lot of journaling to do all of this, and my camera just glitched. Okay. He did a lot of journaling to get to this point. So Bob is learning through this process how to ask himself insightful questions that lead to the next set of questions. The question Bob is facing now is, how do you make this massive shadow self of unworthiness go away? How do you get rid of that sense that you are not worthy of being loved that has been a part of your life since childhood? Bob's parents are no longer in the picture. He cannot go to them and receive retroactive nurturing to his childhood. He cannot get closure from them. So what is Bob supposed to do? This is where Bob begins meditating. And Bob's meditations are geared towards looking within himself and seeing the shadow self. And as Bob meditates, he invites this shadow self to come forward for a little chat. And he invites his inner child to come forward as well. And once they do, Bob meets them not with accusations, not with, "you have to go." Bob meets them with the one thing that that inner child is craving more than anything else: love acceptance, and nurturing from an adult who truly does care about the well-being of the child. Now, I want you to think for a second. When you take a shadow and you shine a light on it, the shadow is forced to shrink. This is as true for your shadow self as it is for the shadows that you cast. Your shadow is forced to shrink when you hit it with the light of love. Love and acceptance will always, always reduce how much influence your shadow has in your waking life. So as Bob loves his inner child, accepts his inner child, and nurtures his inner child, that shadow self becomes smaller and smaller. But it's also important that as Bob is loving the inner child, he also loves the shadow that was created. Because this shadow self has gone a long way to defining Bob's adult personality. Bob is still a kind, giving, conscientious person. And those are remnants of his shadow self that are actually very healthy in his life. However, now that Bob has shrunk that shadow self so it no longer looms over him with this fear of not being good enough, he can take those better qualities, the kindness, the generosity, and choose when he is going to share them with others. He is no longer compelled to always say yes. He can choose what is healthiest for him and what is healthiest for the people around him in moving forward with working together. So this is the secret to how you do your shadow work. This is the secret to how you heal your core wound. You look within. You meet yourself at the point where you were wounded as a child. And then you greet that child with love, with acceptance, no blame, no shame, just pure love and understanding. And the shadow created by that core wound will shrink until it has more or less disappeared from your life. Like I said, this is a challenge. It does take inner work. This is not something that you do in a day. If you have any problems doing this, my contact information is in the description box below this video, and I would welcome hearing from you in any way that I can help. I do offer one-on-one coaching if you need extensive help, and I will happily sit here and direct you to videos all day long to help with specific problems. So, I'm Marna. Thank you for joining me with the Twin Flame Detox.